like a river. I've got joy like a river. I've got joy like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a river. I've got joy like a river. I've got joy like a river in my soul. I've got love like a river. I've got love like a river. I've got love like a river in my soul. I've got love like a river. I've got love like a river. I've got peace, joy, love like a river in my soul.
So as we finish up the second part of chapter 3, we're going to start with fear as our fourth obstacle. You know, fear is something that is very difficult for caregivers because it just seems like so much scary stuff is going on that if we're not fearing, then we're not doing our job. If we're not afraid, if we're not what-ifing, if we're not in high anxiety mode and worried, then we're not going to be a good enough caregiver. But that's no way to live. With this constant knot in your stomach, with a constant sense of guilt, that is just no way to live. As a matter of fact, that tight grip of fear is really so dangerous to your health and to your shortness of patience and to your emotional stability. It's much more dangerous than the thing that you actually fear happening, which probably isn't going to happen. But I get it as a caregiver, and especially with a daughter who could fall and hit her head and could have a brain bleed any minute. Believe me, that's happened before. We tend to have this feeling of, a great term is post-traumatic stress disorder. We live like a bomb's about to go off all the time, don't we? But you can't let that run your life, or it will destroy your health. It will destroy your faith. It will destroy your other relationships if you're just someone who's waiting for a bomb to go off all the time. You've got to learn to be present and to not be fearful, and that is so hard. But there's some wonderful stories in this chapter about other great people who have overcome fear, and it is possible to live in peace and to live in trust. Trust is really what helps you overcome fear. But it's actually the fifth obstacle is we don't know God well enough to trust Him. He's this unseen being that we are being told, trust God, give Him the wheel, let Him drive, let Him dictate. And you're going, I can't hear Him, I can't see Him. And so how can you really lean into and trust God when you're sitting there with someone who is having a seizure, in pain, needing to be fed? It's not esoteric and unseen, it's real and it's right here in front of you. So how do you know the unseen God and welcome Him into your very physical and seen world? And this whole part of the chapter is about getting to know God, not as you've been told that He is, but as He truly is. And then learning to worship Him as He is and as you are in relationship to Him. You know, I went through a terrible depression in the midst of all of my caregiving, and I literally just got up every morning and wept as the children were eating their breakfast and my husband was helping everybody get packed off to school because I couldn't function. All I could do was just weep and sit around in my pajamas. And one day a wonderful friend came by in her pickup truck and grabbed me in my pajamas and threw me in her truck and said, come on, we're gonna get you out of this depression. And for the next 10 days, she came and put me in her truck and went and parked. Lord knows what people thought we were doing, but we parked in her truck and listened to praise and worship. And soon I was able to move my lips and to praise this unseen God like he was my best friend, like he was my father, and eventually like he was my creator, my Lord, my King, the director of my life. And worship just shattered the walls that depression had put around me, because I realized there was a living God. I just didn't know him, and I didn't know he was real until I started responding to him in worship. And that's just part of what you'll work on in this chapter, with getting to know God as he is, not as you wish he was, like a fairy godfather, but as he truly is, the ruler of the universe, the author of your life. And then finally, in this chapter, the sixth way we're going to overcome our obstacles to believing that there is a sovereign God who can run this situation through you, and it will be a tremendous outcome for everyone. It's experiencing God. A lot of people have said, I don't feel God. You know, I know what Scripture says, but how do I really have an experience of the living God? Well, it's just like Daniel in a lion's den. It's like Peter who could walk on water. It's like Jesus who could stretch out his arms on a cross. And that is that it's surrender. You're never really going to know what it is that he's capable of doing in your life until you stop what-ifing, worrying, and fearing, and just let go and do it. No matter how different, no matter how terrifying, no matter how, why would I do that kind of thing? This seems irresponsible. But once you take that step of surrender, you will find yourself absolutely walking with God carrying you, literally. It's just an amazing reality. And you'll work on that in this chapter as well. And after those 6 things, I know that you are going to be able to have a much greater understanding, relationship, and trust in our all-powerful, living, and loving God who loves the person you care for more than you do, and who can care for that person and you better than the two of you. So here's to getting over fear, doubt, control, all these other things we've talked about, and to letting God be sovereign in your life and in your caregiving journey.